My dear students, we are going to discuss competency-based questions. You know, competency-based questions are a very important and significant part of the competency-based interviewing. First of all, we need to know how to relate the questioning techniques to the interview stages. There are 5 major interview stages, and in each stage of the interview, there are different kind of questioning techniques. Because it is not a good idea to ask similar kind of questions in different stages of the interviewing. So first of all, we need to review that what are the 5 major stages of interviewing, particularly competency-based interviewing. The first stage, as you know, that is very common and very important, that is called as the rapport building stage. Then there is an introductory stage that you would ask some of the questions which are related to the profile of the candidates and maybe related to the organization in which the person is going to interview. And the third stage, which is a major stage in the interviewing process, and that stage is called as the core stage. This comprises of the 65% of the total interviewing time. And after the core stage, there is a confirmation stage, and then is the closing stage. My dear students, we already discussed in detail that what are these stages and what kind of a competency-based question we mainly asked in it. But we need to elaborate it further. Competency-based questions comprise as much as 65% of the core stage, as I already told you, and the entire 5% of the closing. The remaining 30% of the interview is divided between open-ended questions, the questions which would give you a lot of explanation. Maybe you can ask from the candidate how you are feeling today, what are your future plans, where you are residing, etc. And then hypothetical questions that you are giving some kind of a scenario to the candidates, and candidates are answering the questions keeping in view that particular scenario. Hypothetical situations you are creating during the interview for the candidate. And then there are some probing questions that you may need to get more clarification about the concepts which are going to be discussed in the interview. So then you will talk about the probing stage. And then there are some questions which are called as a closed-ended question. Maybe you would get an answer of yes or no, true or false, etc. My dear student, first of all, we need to talk a little bit in detail about the rapport building stage. This stage, which represents a scant but important 2% of the interview. This is a very shortest stage, only 2%, but it is very important, very critical. Why it is critical? Because this stage helps you to set the tone for the rest of the meeting. For example, if you are greeting someone and you are not properly greeting someone, your facial expressions are not welcoming, your body language is not proper, obviously this would set the tone for the rest of the meeting, rest of the interview. And it may create a lot of trouble and bad impression in the mind of the candidate. So the purpose is to put the applicant at the ease, thereby encouraging them to communicate openly. Why you want to put the candidate in ease? Just for one basic reason, that the person, you are encouraging the person to communicate openly and allowing you to determine job suitability. If your candidate is not communicating openly to you, how can you determine the job suitability of the candidate in that particular organization? So better to create a better environment so the person can feel better, can feel safe, can feel open, and then he would express his attitude and behaviors towards the job in the organization. So close-ended questions that are casual in nature and focus on non-job related topics. It is not a good idea to talk about the job in the rapport building stage. Just talk about non-job related topics will accomplish the goal of the rapport building stage. Here are some of the neutral rapport building closed-ended questions. First one, did you have any trouble getting here? For example, the person is commuting from one place to your organization for the interview. So you may ask that, did you have any trouble getting here? Answer can be yes, or it can be no. If it is yes, you can probe it further. Then number 2, were you able to find parking nearby? Because sometime in our country, there are a lot of issues in the parking. For example, if you want to park a car near any university which are on the rushy road, obviously you would have a serious problem in parking the car. Number 3, how was the traffic getting here? This is a very general but boring question. How was the traffic getting here? Most of the time answer would be it's a very heavy traffic. I stuck in traffic. So such kind of answer you can expect from the candidate. And number 4, were the direction we gave you helpful? For example, if you have give some pamphlet to the candidate in the interview packet, so the directions are given and you can ask the efficiency of that direction chart from the candidate. And 5, isn't it a beautiful day? It's about the weather. And number 6, when do you think it will stop raining? But obviously we have to keep in mind that if we are asking this question in a hot summer, it is not a good question. Isn't it a beautiful day? The answer would be no. So we have to be careful that what kind of weather is outside, and we must have a weather forecast in front of us. All these questions are about the same 2 topics, commuting and the weather. Very boring, I think, but they are clearly the safest ways to start a conversation without running the risk of saying something controversial or job related. So it is not a good idea to ask questions which are controversial, and it is not also a good idea to ask questions about the job. So better to ask non-job related questions, generic questions, so it would give a comfort to the candidates, and candidates would be able to communicate openly to you so you can determine the job suitability of the candidate in your organization.